Have you ever had a moment where you just, you stop, look around at your incredibly busy, heavily scheduled, hyper-connected life, and suddenly feel like a headless chicken dying of thirst in a spiritual desert?
I mean, that is a remarkably visceral image.
It really is slightly terrifying, honestly.
Oh, absolutely.
But it so perfectly captures that very specific modern feeling. Like we are all trying to suck the marrow out of life, but somehow we just end up completely depleted instead.
Right, running on empty.
Exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into an excerpt from chapter 2 of a book called Get Out of Here Alive.
And the chapter title itself is pretty heavy. It's called, What Do You Have to Show for Your Life?
Yeah, that's a punch to the gut. And the core premise is simple, but really jarring. It argues that our modern obsession with, complexity, it isn't a sign of success at all. It's actually a trap.
A trap that is actively draining our vital energy.
Yes. And that true power actually lies in intentional simplicity.
Which is a massive shift from how we usually operate. We live in this technological age where there's this pervasive, almost unspoken illusion that reducing your existence to the bare essentials is something reserved for, well, half-wits and losers.
Right, like people who just couldn't cut it in the real world.
Exactly. The cultural narrative constantly demands more from you. More connections, higher responsibilities, more subscriptions.
Always more subscriptions.
But the reality we are exploring today is that simplicity is not simplistic at all. It is a highly sophisticated, deliberate lifestyle choice.
Okay, let's unpack this with a quote directly from the source by the spiritual teacher, Pilgrim. She said, "Anything you cannot relinquish when it has outlived its usefulness possesses you."
That is such a profound way to look at it.
It really flips things around. Usually when I think about my stuff, I assume I own it, right? I bought it, I insure it, I put it in a closet.
Right, it belongs to you.
But if we flip that perspective, our possessions, our busy schedules, our endless professional commitments, they might actually be possessing us.
And if you follow that logic, the conversation inevitably moves from the physical clutter in our garages to how these external things possess our most valuable resources.
Our time and our energy.
Precisely. The author asserts that there is almost a pathological need for ever-increasing complexity right now. It operates like a pandemic.
A pandemic of complexity.
Yeah.
Wow. And there's this brilliant paradox the text brings up about the tools we use to manage that complexity.
Oh, the technology aspect.
Yeah, think about the productivity apps on your phone or the software you use for remote work.
Yeah.
Are they actually making your life simpler? Or, and this phrasing is great, are you essentially being worked remotely by the tool itself?
That hits a little too close to home.
I mean, I've definitely had days where I feel less like a human using a laptop and more like a biological resource that my laptop is using to clear its notification queue.
We've all been there. Which brings us to a really interesting adaptation of a famous concept from Frank Herbert's sci-fi novel, Dune.
Oh, I love Dune. Fear is the mind killer.
Right, but in this context, the text adapts it to complexity is the simplicity killer.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Complexity paralyzes us just as effectively as fear does.
It does. You get so overwhelmed by the sheer volume of tasks and obligations that you just freeze.
You freeze or you just scramble blindly. It ties right into the immense societal pressure of goal-oriented behavior. We are constantly stressed by this need to be, as the text bluntly puts it, getting shit done.
Getting shit done in what the philosopher Jean Baudrillard and later The Matrix referred to as the desert of the real.
The desert of the real. So this constant externalizing, this frantic busyness, it actually harms us. It depletes us.
What's fascinating here is the author's argument that this complexity isn't just a tragic accident of the modern world. It's not random. It operates as a system of mimetic mind control.
Okay, hold on. Mimetic mind control. That sounds a bit like dystopian sci-fi jargon. What does that actually look like in practice?
Well, break down the word mimetic. It means imitation.
Like mimicking something.
Exactly. As humans, we unconsciously copy the desires, behaviors, and anxieties of the people around us.
Oh, I see.
If everyone in your social circle is working 60-hour weeks, buying expensive gadgets, and curating a flawless online presence, you automatically mimic those desires.
You start believing you fundamentally need those things too.
Right. So the mind control isn't some sinister villain in a swivel chair plotting against you. It's the self-replicating nature of societal pressure.
It's peer pressure on a massive structural scale.
And it's designed to keep us splashing around in the shallow kiddie pool of this construct, rather than diving into deeper awareness.
So I have a way I'd like to visualize that energy drain. It reminds me of a smartphone battery.
Okay, how so?
You know when your phone is burning hot in your pocket and the battery is dying by noon and you just can't figure out why?
Yes, the worst feeling.
And then you check the settings and realize you have like 100 useless apps running in the background. They are constantly refreshing, tracking your location, pinging cell towers.
It's draining you dry.
Exactly. That's what this mimetic complexity does to our minds. It makes me ask the listener, are you actively choosing your experiences, or is something covertly draining your vital force while you aren't looking?
That is the perfect analogy for the unexamined desires and minor obligations we absorb without thinking. Those background apps are killing us.
So how do we stop the drain?
Well, the text suggests we have to look at historical figures who successfully force-quit those background processes. People who rejected the fast food mentality of contemporary culture for slow food for thought.
The original simpletons.
Right, though the text uses that word very ironically.
Yeah, and the first example is incredible. Peace Pilgrim.
She is fascinating.
Born Mildred Lizette Norman, and she actually went through a very typical frenetic flapper phase of high social engagement early in life.
She was very much part of the complex world.
She had the stuff, she went to the parties, but then she completely pivoted. By 1964, she walked 25,000 miles.
25,000 miles? That's hard to even comprehend.
And she did it carrying only a toothbrush, a comb, a pen, and a map. No money, no backing.
The text notes that modern social media users might judge her a simpleton for giving up all her comforts and aesthetic curation. But her life was deeply, profoundly meaningful.
Because she shed the non-essential.
Exactly. And pairing perfectly with her is Henry David Thoreau.
Oh, of course. You can't talk about simplicity without Thoreau.
Right. He famously went out to Walden Woods because he wanted to live deliberately. He wanted to front only the essential facts of life.
He wanted to make sure he wouldn't get to the end of his life and realize he hadn't actually lived it.
He whittled away the non-essentials. He deliberately avoided the trap of a controlling career. Do you know he lived very comfortably working just 1 day a week?
Wait, really? 1 day a week?
1 day of manual labor to meet his basic survival needs, and that was it.
So by force quitting all those societal background apps, he freed up 6 days a week to actually write, think, and observe.
And the ripple effect of that decision was massive. His essays on civil disobedience, which were born from that quiet, unstructured time, eventually inspired Gandhi.
Talk about an incredible return on investment for simplicity.
There's even a great nod in the text to Timothy Leary's famous quote, "Turn on, tune in, drop out." The author frames it as a radical reimagining of Thoreau's concept of marching to the beat of a different drummer.
Here's where it gets really interesting, but also a bit extreme. I mean, playing devil's advocate for the listener here. I can't exactly drop my job, walk away from my mortgage, and hike the Appalachian Trail with just a toothbrush.
Most of us can't.
Right. So how does the text say we actually apply this without completely imploding our lives?
That's a crucial point. The text clarifies that it isn't judging desire itself. You don't have to eliminate all ambition. The key takeaway is understanding that desire is like a laser on a swivel.
A laser on a swivel.
Right now, society points that laser outward. It tells you to chase external riches, accumulate possessions, get the promotion.
Focus on the stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you can powerfully redirect that laser. You can swivel it inward.
So using that intense energy for internal healing and transcendence instead of buying a new car.
Exactly. Explaining why we need to redirect that laser inward leads us to the deep internal psychological work required to truly live. Because simplicity isn't just about having an uncluttered living room.
It's a non-negotiable requirement for the inner hero's journey.
Yes, and for doing shadow work.
Let's quickly define shadow work for anyone who hasn't encountered the term. It's the process of uncovering the parts of yourself that you repress or hide. Your insecurities, hidden biases, unresolved traumas.
A dark basement of your psyche.
Right, and you can't face that dark basement if your mind is completely cluttered with external trivialities. You just don't have the bandwidth.
You don't, which brings up Carlos Castaneda's concept of stopping the world.
Stopping the world. That sounds so dramatic.
It is, but it's necessary to perceive true quantum reality instead of just the physical reality we're stuck in.
Keeping with our phone analogy, stopping the world sounds a lot like putting your mind in airplane mode.
That's a great way to look at it. If you don't put your mind in airplane mode, you end up following what the author calls the dragon's breadcrumb trail of empty distractions.
Oh, I know that trail. You follow one breadcrumb, like a quick scroll on social media,
Then another breadcrumb, a meaningless impulse purchase.
and suddenly you are miles away from doing any real internal work. The text says this trail prevents us from entering the dark sea of awareness.
And that dark sea represents the deep, terrifying, but limitless potential of your own consciousness.
But if we just follow the distractions, what happens?
The text outlines the alternative path, the standard societal script, by mentioning a companion novel called Beginner's Luke.
And it is brutal.
It really is. It ticks off the appointed stages. You hit a midlife crisis, you face forced retirement, decline into doddering senility, and experience death without dignity.
It's just a devastating audit of a life lived on autopilot. And to snap us out of it, the author poses these incredibly harsh journal questions right to the reader.
They are very confronting.
So, listener, ask yourself, whom or what are you living for? Is your life just a series of products purchased or processes processed? And my personal favorite, is the erratic voice in your head truly your own?
This raises an important question. How can you expect lasting change internally if you are constantly obsessed with the fake change in the quote-unquote real world?
You can't. I really think we like the complexity because the noise drowns out the silence. If you stop the world and sit in the quiet, those journal questions get really, really loud.
They do. And if you avoid those questions entirely, the consequences are severe. This is where the text points directly to the modern epidemic of mental illness.
An epidemic fueled by our digital complexity.
Exactly. It's framed as an underreported epidemic directly linked to social media.
We always hear that social media is bad, but the text gets specific. It pulls quotes from Damon Zaharia's book, Digital Detox.
Right, Zaharias points out that constant exposure to Facebook and Twitter actually alters the brain.
It changes the physical pathways.
It does. It affects our emotional processing, and it directly causes restlessness and depression.
So this relentless digital complexity is actively degrading our cognitive hardware.
Yes, which leads to this intense concept of cognitive dissonance. When you finally step away from the noise and look back at your previously complex, emotionally unstable life, it's a shock.
You don't see success anymore. You just see yourself spinning out of control. It reminds me of the Matrix reference in the text, free your mind.
It's not just a cool movie line here. It is urgent advice.
Because mental chains are just as binding as physical ones.
Often more binding because you can't see them.
So what does this all mean? Let's do a little visualization for you guys listening. Picture yourself living modestly, completely outside the spotlight of your own ego.
Just quiet and simple.
Exactly. How does that mental image actually feel compared to the hamster wheel or the bewildering funhouse of the modern world?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it brings us right back to Thoreau's conviction. He believed that maintaining oneself on Earth should be a pastime, not a hardship.
A pastime? That sounds so peaceful.
But it's only possible if lived simply and wisely. The tragedy is that we have turned human existence into an endurance test.
Which sets up our ultimate takeaway perfectly. The text makes it clear. Opting to surrender your valuable energy to valueless things, that is what separates you from what actually matters, because time exists until it doesn't.
Here today, gone tomorrow.
To put that reality into perspective, the text presents a final scenario, the Grim Reaper test.
It's the ultimate audit of your life.
So imagine the Grim Reaper appears and asks, what do you have to show for your life?
In our modern society, we'd scramble to list our promotions, our followers, our expensive cars.
Right. But the text flips the script. If your answer regarding all those time-consuming, inane pursuits is not much,
then you have actually spent your time wisely.
I love that. Having not much to show externally means you saved your energy for the inner journey.
You successfully evaded the trap of complexity.
Such a powerful way to look at it. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into this excerpt, but we want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over on your own.
Something that builds on all of this. The next time you feel an urgent, frantic impulse to check your phone, buy a product, or add a new commitment to your calendar, pause.
Just stop the world for a second.
Exactly. Treat that impulse like a foreign invader. And ask yourself, who actually planted this desire in my head, and what are they extracting from me in return?
Because if you don't interrogate those impulses, you might just find yourself back in that spiritual desert, wondering where all the water went. Keep your mind in airplane mode when you need to, and remember to protect your energy.